to celebrate our 60th anniversary. The actual date was September 24th, 1964, that UTSI's first, and we'll talk about UTSI versus in just a second, but we have a great opportunity today to talk about not only where we've been in the past and where we are today, but where we're going in the future as well. And I would like to thank a couple of folks for putting together what I thought was a fantastic program today. Now, to all of the UTSI staff, and to everyone who helped clean, prepare, organize, get tables in place, etc. Thank you all so much for everything you did. You all are a vital part. Apparently they think I need a microphone. So for all of our staff to help set up, but in particular I want to call out Charlotte and Megan. And the two of them were the quarterbacks in making sure that we had everything ready to go. And particularly Megan, we stand up and just wave to everybody. I don't see Charlotte in the room, but the two of them were always in my office saying, well, what about this, and what about this, and what about this? And it's so important to have people who are detail-oriented and keep you on track of things on your staff, and can't thank you guys enough. Want to thank everybody from TCE and UT Development from multiple campuses and other places that came in to support us today. And I'm going to forget somebody. I know I'm going to forget somebody. So please forgive me when I do that, but GTL, a company that we're very proud of their success. A couple of alumni started what is a fantastic company here, came out and displayed. Hopefully you saw a lot of great displays out in our exposition area. I want to thank Colonel Jason Vapp and Mike Laslier for coming out and representing AEDC and being engaged with us out here today. In a few minutes you're going to hear from the mayor of Tullahoma and a lot of other folks. A couple people I do want to call out as well. If you know anything about the history of UTSI, you are familiar with, I get the title wrong, but Dr. Young was a huge influence on getting UTSI where it needed to be. And his children are here today. Would y'all mind just standing up and letting us give you a round of applause? And in a few minutes, you're going to hear from Ernie Wu, the son of Jimmy and Susan Wu, a couple of faculty members that were so instrumental in helping the Space Institute get where it needs to be. And I'll introduce him more again in a second. I think Regina is somewhere around here, I hope. But from Motlow State, Regina Verdon is here, and we're exploring a good new partnership with them. Let's have her come out today. I see Beverly Lee from Tullahoma Economic Development up here, and Mark Mahalik. Everybody who came from Knoxville, thank you all. Okay, I'm going to miss someone. I know that. When I see you later on, I go, oh, I'm sorry. But the role you have all played in helping UTSI get to where it needs to, where we are today, and where we're going in the future, I think it's going to be vitally important, and we're looking forward to working with this entire community as we go forward. So, I've got an interesting slate of speakers today. My boss, Dean Mench from the College of Engineering, is going to kick us off with a few words about his perspective on UTSI. And I hope you'll say some kind things. I think he's planning to it. But I feel very fortunate working very closely with him. Matthew has been a great champion of what we could do here. And actually, those are those other people I needed to mention. I wanted to thank Senator Bowling and Representative Bricken for being here with us today as well. And one more person that I forgot to mention, but I think is really important. How many of y'all are familiar with the very large wind tunnels that we have here on our campus? Okay, the backbone of what we can do and the basis of a lot of our work is based on a couple of very large systems called Ludwig tubes. And the state supported that. And the person who got that whole ball started for us and found the advocacy and said, you need to lean in to do something fantastic at the Space Institute, was the UT System Vice President for Government Relations, a gentleman by the name of Anthony Haynes. Anthony later went and is now the Executive Director of the Municipal League for Tennessee, and he's sitting right there in the blue blazer. And so Anthony, I just want to thank you for everything you did to put us in a position to be successful a decade ago. And by the way, that Mach 4 wind tunnel has probably approached about a factor of 20 to 1 return on investment for what the state put into it. And and it's going to keep delivering for years to come. So really appreciate everything you've done there, and I know I've missed somebody else, but I think I got what I... Okay, so Dean Mench is going to come up and start us off a little bit about perspective. When I originally had Ernie Wu up here, I just had son of UTSI in quotes, because Ernie is, we've all known him basically as the Wu's son. But what doesn't show up there is the PhD from Harvard and the immense success he had in leadership as an executive in aerospace. And the role he plays in leadership today as a member of the AIAA Management Information and Operations Committee. Ernie is a force in aerospace of his own right. We're very fortunate to have him here to talk about what his reflection on what his parents did to help UTSI get to where it is today. Dr. Lynn, the recently elected mayor of Tullahoma and graduate of the Space Institute in '92, is here to chat with us a little bit, and I'm hoping he's going to talk a little bit about the importance of UTSI in our community. And then you get to hear from an actual, not an actual test pilot, but in my mind, Sophia Edwards is a test pilot. And I'll tease you with that a little bit. I'll introduce her more properly in a few minutes. Then I'm going to close out with some thoughts on where I think we're going in the future. Really appreciate everybody being here. And now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dean Mench for a few words. Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting. Before we do that, the real boss.
Hi, everyone. This is Chancellor Dondi Plowman. I just want to say congratulations on 60 years of serving Tennessee and the country through graduate study, research, and innovation. I wish I could be there today to celebrate with you. The UT Space Institute has an incredible legacy, from the astronauts and scientists who've come through the Institute to the industry partnerships that drive innovation. I am proud to call the Space Institute part of UT Knoxville and am grateful for all you do. Thank you, and go Vols.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Dean Mench.
Thanks very much, John. And the Chancellor sends her best regards. She could not make it. She's going some other travel today. But it's great to be here. And you know what? I always love coming here. I've been in UT for 14 years now in different capacity, as a professor in mechanical, aero, and biomedical, as department head of mechanical, aero, and biomedical, and now as dean. And one of the things I always love about coming down here is that you can feel that it's a special place. And it's not just a special place because of the 9 astronauts, not just a special place because of the research and the graduates and everything. It's a special place because of the people, and it's a special place because all of you in here care so much about this institute. It's coming in from Knoxville, from the outside, and seeing this, it's readily apparent when you walk in the door. And I've always enjoyed coming down here and feeling that kind of spirit and that love of the Space Institute. It's founded in 1964, primarily as the academic front door for AEDC, and it's been here for 60 years at the forefront of aerospace research and education. It's graduated, UTSI has graduated over nearly 3,000 engineers, has research contributions that are well known to stealth technology, hypersonics now, a few astronauts here and there, and an important contribution to our region and our nation in terms of aerospace and defense industry. I remember when I was in graduate school, one of the reasons I love this place too is I studied multi-phase combustion in graduate school. So I went to the library where I went to school, and there was a kind of a shrine for the astronaut, the one astronaut that had graduated from my alma mater. And I thought that was pretty cool, that you could have an astronaut graduate from alma mater. It was this beautiful little shrine and everything. And then I moved here, and I found out there were 9 from UTSI, and I thought, well, okay, the numbers. We also, in academic administration, we talk about student to faculty ratio. We really talk about astronaut to faculty ratio. It's probably about 1 to 1. But just some fantastic output here, some fantastic people in research and graduates that have gone on to do tremendous things, a great relationship with AEDC and beyond. I came to know about UTSI while I was at Penn State. One of the former faculty here, Chuck Merkel, at the time was at Penn State, and he moved down to UTSI, and I heard about the great stuff at UTSI at that point as a central Pennsylvania kid that had pretty much never left the Carlisle State College area. And then when I moved down here to Knoxville in 2010, as a faculty member, and I had some part-time gig at Oak Ridge, and then in 2013 became the department head. And that's when I really got to come down here and know the faculty, help understand kind of what the strategic importance of UTSI is in the state and in the nation. It's a really unique place. There aren't very many like it, if any, that it's a singular focus, right, in terms of aerospace and defense, and a cluster of faculty and a cluster of facilities around that is a very unique thing and produces very significant contributions. So when I became dean in 2021, we're still wearing masks at a certain point for a few months. One of the first things that we did was I know the chancellor well. I got to serve on her cabinet for a while, and we took a trip down here with the vice chancellor for research, Deb Crawford. She was a new vice chancellor for research, and Dondi Plowman was probably chancellor for a couple of years at that point. And I wanted to bring them down here and tour around because I wanted them to see what I saw and always knew as a department head, is that this is a very strategic asset. It's a very important part of the university, and this is something that we should think about strategically in enhancing our own capabilities and leveraging and working together and growing as a collaboration. We always talk about Oak Ridge, and Oak Ridge is a fantastic partner. It's right next door, right? But so is UTSI. So that was, we came away from that visit. Both of them saw the same thing that I had known, is that this is a fantastic place, and we have to think more about strategically how can we continue to grow. And really what came out of that is the thought that, okay, the University of Tennessee does a lot of research, obviously, but aerospace and defense research, this is a focal point for it, right? This is where it starts. And the Huntsville Research Operation Center now is kind of an offshoot of UTSI. That is a tremendous addition there. The hypersonics research that has taken off since John's been here and hired several faculty has been fantastic. But what I'd like to say is, we're just getting started, right? I mean, there's a tremendous trajectory of the university right now, of the Tickle College of Engineering and UTSI as well, and we're just getting started, right? I was talking to John earlier. The department in UTSI is looking to hire, for the first time in many, many years, hired a faculty in material science and engineering. Now there's 8 openings now for next year. Growth is very important in aerospace and defense, and producing the workforce necessary to meet the challenges and needs ahead is very, very important. So this is a strategic piece of the puzzle for the university, and this is an area of growth, and we're starting to see it. There's some great news coming as well. Maybe John will share some of that with you as well in terms of some hires and things like that. But leadership thinks big around here, and I think we got the right leader in place at UTSI. And if I think back to 1964 and kind of the original mission, right? Where were we as a nation? 60 years is a long time. In a Cold War, we're in a space race, right? We have an adversary out there that's trying to usurp our dominance of aerospace technology. Very critical need for the United States of America to maintain that national security dominance. And then I think today, actually it sounds pretty similar, right? There's never been a better time to double down on the mission here and to increase and enhance what we have here for the security of the nation and for a space program and for national defense and everything. Like I said, the focal point for it is here at the University of Tennessee. And it's great to see this happening. It's great to see all of you here. You're all invested in this institute. The students are fantastic that I meet. Some of the research they're doing is absolutely fantastic, second to none. And they get jobs that are second to none. So very, very happy to see all of you here. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Mench. And let me note that Ernie Wu is a busy guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on, and I was delighted when he took my invitation to come and talk about the critical role that his parents played as probably original faculty members of the Space Institute, or at least very early in the day, and the transformative impact they had on the Space Institute, and guess where we need to go. And I think he's got a very timely reflection for us today, and so glad he could join us. And you know, I always think of him as the Wu's son, and well, he is older than I am, but he's always son, right? Son identity. But if you look at what he's accomplished on his own, 3 degrees, including a PhD from Harvard, CEO of an aerospace company, a leader in what we do in aerospace. And we are delighted to have his time today, and I very much appreciate him sharing his reflections with us.
Thank you, John. You're really too kind. And the reason I have 3 degrees from Harvard is they couldn't figure out how to get rid of me, so they kept giving me degrees until eventually my mother recruited me to join her. But it is a great honor to be asked to be here and to share a few remarks about my parents and the relationship between my parents and UTSI's early growth at the beginning. And to really understand it and get a sense of their impact, you really need some context of their history and their journey through life. So they were engineering students at the University of Taipei, or National Taiwan University, Taida in Taipei. My mother was the only engineering woman in the engineering program there. And at that time, there was no graduate program anywhere in Taiwan. So in order to proceed with your idea of becoming a professor or getting more education, you had to come to the United States or to Europe. And so my parents had this dream of coming to America to go to school. This is a picture of both my parents when my mother was going. She's the one in the cheongsam in the middle. She's like more dressed up than everybody other than her mother, and she's got the suitcase at her feet. And my husband, her husband is next to her, my father, and 2 of her sisters, her father's in the back, and a couple of her sister's husbands. And that's the big send-off. Their dream was to come to the U.S. to study. At that time, my parents were not married, because if you were married, only one of you could leave. My mother left first because her family was more well-off financially, and I think her scholarships enabled her to go to Ohio State first before my father left. You were also only allowed to take $200 out of the country, and my father couldn't meet that. He didn't have enough. He just had $100, so it was a journey for them to get here. And very strategic for them to also not get married before they came to the U.S. He ended up going to the University of Minnesota first, but his actual dream was to go to Caltech. He had dreamed of that for some time. Actually, my father was the dreamer of the couple, of the 2 of them. My mother was very pragmatic. She's like, I'm going to get to the U.S., I'm going to go to wherever they'll take me and get my PhD. And my father dreamed of going to Caltech, and he ended up getting accepted to Caltech while he was a master's student, and he just left Minnesota immediately and went to Caltech. And my mother was fortunate enough to have scholarships, and so my father talked Caltech into taking her because she was free. She was also the only woman at Caltech in aeronautical engineering at the time. But you can see how important it was to my parents. My mother has written, and I'm not sure if it's legible, that our dream comes true when my father got his PhD. He was actually the second to get the PhD because he had to stop to pay for my birth and my brother's birth, because at that time, Caltech didn't have the kind of health insurance that provided for pregnancy and child delivery. So in order to pay for the hospital bills, he had to go do some work on the Polaris missile. The reason they ended up in Tullahoma is that when my father got his PhD, they both got job offers. They got really good job offers. My mother's job offer was from MIT. My father's job offer was from Stanford. That's quite a commute back and forth, even especially in those days when propeller was the primary mode of transportation for aircraft. At the same time, B.H. Gerthert was starting UTSI here in Tullahoma, and he was having difficulty recruiting because UTSI was brand new, so obviously no reputation at all, and came to Caltech to recruit and met my parents. And so for him, it was a pretty simple decision because most universities had a anti-nepotism clause about hiring married couples. And so no university would actually look at both of them. So even though they both had really good offers, they were in a quandary about what to do. And so Gerthert said, well, I'm going to steal a Stanford professor and an MIT professor with one swoop and get both of them to come to Tullahoma, Tennessee. They were very excited to have a job together and to move to Tullahoma. But it also created a dilemma for them. This is a photograph my father took when he first arrived at Caltech, which he knew was going to be really hard. Even though he was a translator for the U.S. Army after he'd finished college, and so his English was pretty good. He knew it was a very difficult program. When he got to campus, he had someone take a picture of him under this no U-turn sign, because for him, we are going forward. We're not going backwards. We are here. We are going to make it work. The difficulty for them was once they got to UTSI, they had arrived at a university that none of their peers had ever heard of. Well, UTSI at least. University of Tennessee, certainly people had heard of that. But UTSI was like, where is that? Tullahoma. Where is that? Who is there? Who are the graduates? Who are the well-known graduates? Well, there are none yet. And so for them, it was a dilemma about what to do. Should they just focus on their careers and make the best name for themselves and then try to get hired somewhere else that had a reputation? And this is where the no U-turn comes in, is important. Because for them, no, we are here, and we're going to make this work. Success looks like not just our success, but bringing success to everyone here, everyone around us. So they were heavily involved with the students. That's the first AIAA student branch. My mother's in the picture there in her funky eyewear. They even took, so John, you'll have to live up to this, they even took UTSI students to watch a launch at Kennedy Space Center. Pretty cool. So graduate students here, you should say, hey, when are we going to Kennedy to watch something launch? And the other thing they did was to help establish UTSI internationally as a power, as a force to be reckoned with. There's my mother. She's holding a glass of probably vodka in Russia. I'm sure she didn't drink it because that wouldn't have been her style. But and then I'm not sure you can tell, but I'm going to guess that all the students in the picture of the wind tunnel with my father are all international students. And they had come specifically to study with him because at that time, again, UTSI didn't have a reputation yet, so people are coming to study with him. And it was that effort that really led to UTSI making a strong enough impression, a strong enough mark that it was a leader in the world, both in magnetohydrodynamics, which my mother became the director of that program, and my father was very influential, particularly in Asia. So some of the leading defense officials from Japan and Taiwan, I wouldn't say China, but a lot of Chinese students also went through him. And Ed Kraft, who was also one of my father's students, went on a lecture tour with my father in Taiwan, and his comment was that it was like traveling with a rock star. As much as an engineer can be a rock star, but I guess maybe in China or in Taiwan, where students would crowd around him and want to hear and meet him, and we don't have that behavior in the U.S. where faculty are that exalted. But in any case, it sort of helped achieve their dream of being at a world-renowned facility, right? They didn't come to one, they helped make it one. And I know that's John's intent to do that again. So really, their philosophy boils down to these principles. And I've been lucky enough to be imbued with these as well, which is to believe in the best aspects of everyone. Believe that people wake up wanting to do good, to do their best if you give them a chance. And if you help them do their best, they will grow into the best versions of themselves. That also means you have to model that, right? You have to be on your game day after day. You have to be trying every day to get better. And when you do that, other people will also follow. And then finally, chase your dreams and make them realities. Don't just dream, but do. Thank you.
Ernie, thank you very much. I think many of us who are on the faculty here at Space Institute look at the incredible role models and the precedents set by the Wus and ask, if only we could reach that far. And we're going to give it our best. We're looking forward to seeing what happens in the near future. I think we've got a fantastic new group of faculty coming in, but we know that the legacy of the Wus will be overlooking us. It's something that we're going to have to live up to. And thank you so much for sharing your memories with us today. So our next speaker is going to be the mayor of Tullahoma. And really appreciate Lynn coming in to chat with us today. Come on up, Lynn. Let me go ahead and turn the microphone over to you. All right. And I've asked Lynn to kind of reflect on his experience as a UTSI graduate and the importance of Tullahoma of UTSI within our regional community.
Thank you, John. And I just want to say I really appreciate being invited to do this today, and I'm glad to be here. And I want to, if you don't mind, I'm going to indulge me for just a few minutes to tell you about my story and how I came to be a member of the Tullahoma community through UTSI. And then we'll have a few comments to make about that. I didn't bring any slides, but I really enjoyed those pictures of the Wus. I did take a class with Jimmy Wu when I was here, and it was one of those memorial classes, and especially a couple of things that I still don't understand that he tried diligently to explain to me. I graduated from the University of Missouri-Rolla in 1989. And if you were alive then, you might remember that we had, quote, won the Cold War, and we took a peace dividend. If you're an engineering student, a peace dividend equated to no jobs. There were 60 people in my graduating class at Rolla in aerospace engineering, and a month after graduation, 2 of us had a job, and I was not one of them. We had many people who did not have a job. And for those who are students, I assume we have at least one. I see a few more in there perhaps. I want you to think back to 1989. The internet did not exist yet. There was some internet going on between universities, but there was no World Wide Web, there was no Google, there wasn't even Yahoo and whatever the one was before that. There were no search engines. And so looking for a job meant going to the library and I can't even remember the name of the book, he's not in his head because he knows what I'm talking about. There were these directories of businesses, literally, and it was just page after page of Lockheed Martin, send your resume to this address and contact to this person. And they would update, there was some company that would update those all the time. So I went to the library, and I had a decision to make. At one point, I actually had a bit of a chance to go to work for the CIA in Washington, and I decided I didn't want to go that far from my family. So I'm from Missouri, and the closest was Huntsville. And so I sent all these resumes, probably 100 letters to various companies in Huntsville, including UTSI, because they were listed as a company in one of these directories. I had no idea what UTSI was. And I got a letter back from a gentleman named Dr. Ed Gleason. Some of you in this room I know Ed Gleason. I believe he passed away this summer, correct? And sympathy to his family. I got this very nice letter inviting me to come visit UTSI, and so I took him up on that. I drove out here in my old beat-up college car, and Ed Gleason spent hours with me, walking me around UTSI, introducing me to professors, showing me laboratories, and promising me that if I came, they didn't have any money for me yet, but they would work and find me some. And I had decided it was either go back to school and try to wait out the job problem, or it was time to change careers. So I loaded up all my belongings and came out about a month later in May of 1990 to Tullahoma and took random odd jobs and started classes in the fall. And Mr. Gleason, Dr. Gleason, and Colonel Gleason, by the way, from the Air Force, he was good to his word. And that fall, they found me an internship with, or a graduate research assistance position with Dr. Carroll Peters, or Pete as he was known here. And Pete was my first paying engineering job, was here at UTSI doing work for Pete. He had a contract with the Army Research Lab doing wound ballistics. That is every bit as weird as it sounds. And, but I learned a bunch of statistics that I didn't even want to know. But more importantly, I learned about ADC because Dr. Peters had worked many years at ADC for Dr. Gerthert, whose picture we just saw up here a few moments ago. And he had a lot of war stories about the development of the ADC test facilities and all the components that made them work. And so I learned a ton about test facilities before I ever went to work at ADC. In the winter of '91, another significant event occurred. I had met a cute redheaded school teacher locally, and we got married just after Christmas in the UTSI cafeteria because I was a student and it was free. And so we took the whole place to ourselves, and we decorated the cafeteria up with all sorts of Christmas decorations, had a wonderful wedding there. My best man was a young guy named John Foster, who was also a student here. Well, he was a co-op with McDonnell Douglas. He was a Knoxville grad. Well, while he was in St. Louis, McDonnell Douglas, he had married a Missouri girl. Well, guess where the girls wanted to live? The girls wanted to live at home. John attended church with a bunch of the Swerdrup executives, and they had offered him a job. And he said, well, my wife says I have to come home to Missouri. You should hire my friend Lynn. And so they did. And that was how I got my job at ADC. And I just want to make a comment to all you students out here. I've had 6 position changes that required me shifting in effect to a new job. All 6 of those I've gotten through a personal contact. Maintain your relationships, treat people right. It pays off in the long run. And so when I started ADC, soon afterwards, I took advantage of educational benefits to begin working on my PhD. And thanks to those programs, I could go to class at UTSI during work, and I've told people my office was 5-minute drive here to class. It was faster for me to get to class here from ADC than it used to be when I had to walk to class back at Rolla. And so it made it very convenient. And it took me a while, it took me a good while, but I finally earned my PhD with the assistance of Dr. Chuck Merkel that was just mentioned earlier by the dean, and he's now a professor emeritus at Purdue. And great thanks to him. And one of the things about Dr. Merkel is that he treated every student as a colleague. And you just can't imagine how refreshing that is after some of the experiences some of us have in engineering at the undergraduate level. But he really did, and he was like that. I had promised my wife that I wouldn't be going to school forever. I almost exceeded that. He had 92 up here. That was my master's degree. My PhD finished in '02, 10 years later. And I promised I was going to get done before our kids were busy with sports and school events and all that. And I remember driving to Knoxville. I turned in the official copy of my dissertation in Knoxville on a Thursday afternoon and went to my first T-ball game on Saturday morning. Mission accomplished. So I say all that to make this point. UTSI was instrumental in bringing me to Tullahoma and ADC and was critical in my professional development. Where else can you work at a world-class aerospace facility in a town as small as this was and still is and have access to this sort of education? It's really kind of remarkable if you go looking at other communities. You know, we work with folks out in the desert, various facilities, and they're just trying to figure out how they can get an elementary school to to their places. And we've got this here. And I'm not the only one. There are hundreds of engineering professionals that have been able to continue their education at ADC. I never sat in a building anywhere where there wasn't somebody around me going to classes at ADC on a regular basis. And these graduates serve in nearly every facet of the work at ADC. There are many people in leadership positions at ADC, including, I think, the current commander. That's correct. And I believe the current commander is a graduate of ADC. And we have ADC fellows, but not just work at ADC. We have UTSI graduates throughout our community, and they volunteer in organizations of every type. There are UTSI grads working in youth sports service organizations, active in the arts, active in public service. I got my start in public service as a member of the Tullahoma Planning Commission about 20 years ago. And for the last 15 years, I've served on the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation. And one of the lessons that's been drilled into me by Winston, who's here tonight, the director of that, and others in that business, is the importance of a skilled workforce. Everywhere we go and talk to people, all we hear is we need skilled workers. AEDC tells us that, but not just AEC. The hospital in town tells us that. The factories locally tell us that. John has told us that on multiple occasions, the need for skilled workforce. And so a highly skilled workforce is demand for every segment of our local economy, and our local economy is growing. There are tremendous investments coming right now to AEDC. As was mentioned earlier, I said, well, it was the end of the Cold War. Well, the Cold War is back in a sense. The great power struggle is back. And there are tremendous investments coming to AEDC. Last year, the economic impact of AEDC to the local community exceeded $1 billion for the first time. And so it's significant, it's important to us. But the technology engineering jobs are not limited just to AEDC. We have a host of a number of engineering firms locally, such as Jacobs Technology, which is, you gotta forget that because it's gonna be augmentum, I think, like this week. They've had a merger, but they support engineering service to the DoD and NASA across the entire country. I saw an announcement yesterday they want a support contract at Langley, here at the local office. In addition, the state of Tennessee has recognized the strength of our regions making investments. The 2,000-acre I-24 industrial site is under development by the state of Tennessee. It's just a few miles from here, and we'll be bringing modern manufacturing jobs to Coffee County in the near future. We don't know what those will be yet, but the conversations we've had with the State Board of Economic Development assures us that they're not going to go look for minimum wage jobs. They're going to try to bring the best quality jobs. Modern manufacturing is technology. And so there are going to be plenty of advantages for UTSI to play a role in attracting and retaining the talent that we need, not just at AEDC, but throughout the entire region. I know Dr. Schmisseur is working hard with the University of Tennessee to position UTSI for the next 60 years. I want UT to know that the city of Tullahoma appreciates the mission of UTSI and the service they provide to the region, and we look forward to working with UTSI to make that vision a reality. I couldn't be prouder to be an alumni, and I'd like to invite Dr. Schmisseur up here. We have a little proclamation from the city for him. Let me swap hands for a moment while I flip this out. I didn't write this. We have a very good secretary at City of Tullahoma that helps write all these things. She stole it all off your website, John, by the way, just so you know. So, whereas this year marks the 60th anniversary of the University of Tennessee Space Institute since its founding in 1964 as a support arm of the Arnold Engineering Development Center, and whereas UTSI is generating solutions, technologies, and systems to meet the nation's aerospace and defense needs, and whereas UTSI graduates become leaders in their fields and help shape the future of the aerospace and defense sectors and are poised to meet the demands of the aerospace and defense sectors and play a pivotal role in the advancement of technologies and systems necessary to protect U.S. and allied interest in space, and whereas over 500 ADC employees have earned graduate degrees at UTSI, including 46 doctorates, and whereas in total, 2,460 graduate degrees, including 319 doctorates, have been awarded through UTSI, many of them to Tennesseans, and whereas UTSI has served Tennessee industry by offering an online master's program in engineering management, and served our military by offering distance education classes to those stationed at home and deployed worldwide. And whereas UTSI has many distinguished alumni, several of whom have achieved national fame as astronauts, company presidents, chief scientists, engineering managers, and renowned scholars and scientists, many of their alumni occupy high-level positions in industry, government, and universities, not only in the United States, but in other countries as well. Now, therefore, I, Lynn Sebourn, Mayor of the City of Tullahoma, do hereby proclaim the 60th anniversary of the University of Tennessee Space Institute an important milestone in our city's aerospace heritage, and recognize the Institute as a national asset in our nation's defense. On behalf of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, we offer congratulations and continued success.
Mayor Sebourn, I can't thank you enough for the recognition from the city of what I think we all recognize the importance of UTSI within our community, and I thank you very much for your kind words there. Our next speaker, and I'll get some slides up here for you, a little bit of change of pace. You know, we've heard from all the old dudes now, and I thought it was very important for us to think about what the future looks like. Now, I'm going to embarrass her for a second here. Most of the time, when you're a professor and you talk with students, You say, well, no, I don't have any favorites. And then usually I'll talk to students and say, except Sophie. Okay, and here's why. When Sophia Edwards was a sophomore, she called me and said, hey, in my AE 201 class, I heard about this thing called hypersonics. I understand that you guys at Space Institute are really involved in that. I'm fascinated about that as a career option. Can you tell me more about it? I said, sure, let's have a Zoom call. We talked about it. Remember, she's a sophomore at the time. Okay, still trying to figure out a lot of things, still probably trying to figure out, how to live in the dorm or whatever. But I said, you know what? We're putting together this seminar of recordings for this thing called University Consortium for Applied Hypersonics. We're going to have a bunch of hypersonic lectures. Most of them will be over your head, but why don't you just sit and listen to a couple of them? She said, I'd be happy to try and do that. So after COVID, when you teach via Zoom and you're talking to a bunch of students, odds are that student is a little black square on your screen with a name, and you have no idea what they're doing because they got their camera off, and you don't know if they're playing Fortnite in the background or working on other things or whatever. But students are, not Sophie. Sophie shows up, and her camera's on for every one of these Zoom sessions. And I thought, man, she's engaged. So I started watching her during the Zoom sessions, and she was paying attention. She was taking notes. As a sophomore, she was asking questions at the end of the seminar of stuff that was probably at the graduate level. I thought, wow, we've got a potential winner here. And started talking to her about the UTSI summer intern program. She came out, did a summer internship, and another one. And then she said, you know what, I love it at the Space Institute. Could I stay for my senior year? And we'd been talking about it, and we thought, why would we not just try and step on the gas and see what we can do to put something together? So we, for Sophie and a couple of seniors who had spent their summer with us, put together a program. We jokingly called it Summer Abroad in Tullahoma, or Study Abroad in Tullahoma. And it's actually called the Aerospace and Defense Undergraduate Experience. And it allows students to complete their senior year in residence at the Space Institute. And Sophie and Jack Stickley, who you may have met, Jack, okay, and McKenna Goss. We had 3 student volunteers who came out and said, we're going to try this. So we called them the test pilots. Now, there's been a lot of actual real-life military test pilots and astronauts that come through the Space Institute, but we had 3 students that were trying something for the very first time. And so we call them the test pilots. We call them the test pilots all year long, okay? By the way, the next generation of students in our Aerospace and Defense undergraduate program, you may have met a couple of them earlier. Any of you guys in the room? Okay, you guys just wave your hands. We got a great crew here. We've got 5 students in this group. I don't think Sophie was going to tell you the outcome of this, but here's what happened, okay? We had our 3 seniors in residence, and they all worked on a senior design project together, went back to Knoxville, and won the senior design competition for engineering. And Sophie and her research partner, Rachel Constantine, went back and won the undergraduate research competition in Knoxville as well. So we had 3 test pilots in residence, and they won the senior competition for engineering and research. And Sophie was an important part of both teams. Okay, now, I don't have favorites because I have favorites. I have favorites because people earn my respect. And Sophie has always earned my respect by the way she's always out there engaged, willing to do what she needs to do to advance not only her studies, but to advance the Institute as well. And because of that, she very graciously offered to say a few words today about her time at the Space Institute. I'm happy to introduce her now. So, Sophia Edwards.
Thank you, Dr. Schmisseur, for the great introduction as always, and what an honor it is to share the stage with you all tonight, or I guess this afternoon. So I'm kind of just going to talk about my experience, a little bit about me and how I got to the Space Institute and my experience so far here. So growing up, I had no background in engineering. My mom was a horse trainer, bartender. She worked 3-4 jobs when I was growing up. My dad made pottery when I was growing up. So whenever I started working in the lab, I was trying to learn the names of ball drivers and hex keys, the very, very basics. And so like Dr. Schmisseur had mentioned, I I heard about hypersonics, and Dr. Mark Graxton, my advisor now, came to speak for the 201 class. And I was like, man, hypersonics, this sounds really interesting. How do I get more involved? And so I spoke with Dr. Schmisseur, and he said, you know, of course, there's this lecture. And so I started to watch these meetings and Zoom calls and whatnot. And I was like, man, I really want to try and learn more. How can I get an internship here? How can I go further into this opportunities? And what Dr. Schmisseur didn't necessarily say is he did not take me as an intern here because of my resume. It wasn't the most impressive at the time. I knew whenever I was in high school, of course, I was going to have to get scholarships and all that to go to college. So, but once my freshman year was COVID year, and I really was just trying to pass my classes, make the grades, but tried to get involved in other things, but it was really difficult at the time for me. And so, Dr. Schmisseur, I really appreciate you taking the opportunity on me to do that. But anyways, so I'll go into my first internship. So here, like I had mentioned, I didn't have much experience doing anything engineering-wise. So I was trying to figure out what are these labs? What are all these words? There's so many things I had to learn. And it was overwhelming in a lot of ways. And so by the end of the year, we did we put the the X15 model in Mach 4 and did some tests there. And we also, of course, have a great, if you guys haven't seen, we live on the lake. So doing things like canoeing and whatnot we've done, as well as going to Huntsville, things like that. And here's another one of the undergrad test pilots, McKenna Goss, in the bottom corner here. And then so during my second internship, I kind of had an idea of things in the lab, and I started to be like, maybe I can do this, but maybe I bit off more than I can chew kind of thing. So I tried to dive a little bit deeper into it with the opportunity in the second internship. And here we did tests for FLDI, focused laser differential interferometry, as well as developing a new advancements for a temperature-sensitive paint application. And here you can see we did some tests in Dr. Baccarella's Mach 6 arc heated facility at UTK. But anyway, so during this time, I really tried to develop my confidence further. And the only way that I could really do that was to get hands-on experience, and that was something I had a hard time getting access to anywhere other than UTSI. And UTSI, along with that, has given me confidence in a lot of areas with the professors and all the experience to try and move on further with that, And so from my second internship, we had the opportunity to present at Eureka, which Dr. Schmisseur had mentioned before, as well as a student conference. And those sorts of opportunities as a freshman or a sophomore, where I was confused and lost in the engineering world, seemed very far out of my scope of how could I do those things, how could I get there. And so once I came here as a student, those opportunities just started to fall into my lap, of course with some hard work, but also with the support of faculty and staff. And then so I ended up coming here for my senior year, like he had mentioned. And here we put the X15 back in Mach 7, did some more IR thermography tests, as well as Schlieren. And then we did further development of the temperature-sensitive paint adhesive films I had mentioned previously in Mach 7 as well. And then we also did things like retroreflective shadowgraphy. And here in the top corner is the senior design program that we did. And the whole idea of this senior program is we get the experience to do senior design using the resources that graduate students have on campus here. So with the senior design project itself, we also got to do our senior lab on campus here. So doing things like testing model rockets and whatnot, and actually using the facilities on campus really helped sort of speed up the professional development and process for my understanding of a lot of things. And also the sunrise is beautiful on the lake, which is a great perk of being here in the dorms. And then so speaking more about the senior design project, here we built a shock tube, me, Jack Stickley, as well as McKenna Goss that you all had seen earlier with the advisement of Dr. Graxton and Dr. Moeller. And really of course, the shock tube itself is an incredible device that we get to use, and it's actually going to help further the studies that I'm doing for my PhD, so that's a great benefit. But the project in itself, what did we learn? We took something, we just took a goal that we had with nothing other than, hey, we have this problem, how do we solve it? We designed, we got it machined from the facilities here, which is an incredible capability that UTSI has. And then we actually got to do these tests, and we got to work in a team and kind of see how to do that, which is a huge important process in becoming a professional engineer as well. And so doing so on UTSI's campus has been incredible. And then so since I've been in graduate school, I graduated in May, so I've been here a couple months now. I've continued research doing fleet with one of the grad students here, Nicholas Weber, which is femtosecond laser electronic excitation tagging. You can kind of see in the top right. Super cool. I'd be happy to talk to anybody more about any of the research things afterwards if anybody's interested. But just having professors have the confidence in you to use very expensive equipment and all those things is incredible, and really has helped me over the years build my confidence. But we also, me and Rachel Constantine, that Dr. Schmisseur had mentioned previously, also got the opportunity to present at a professional conference, the AIAA conference in Las Vegas, which was super cool and an opportunity I certainly would not have had if I never had the chance to come here. And as well as this summer, we've done some temperature-sensitive paint lifetime testing. And yesterday, actually, we took this picture yesterday evening, but some pressure-sensitive paint measurements using the shock tube that was built in the senior year. And so it's incredible to see all of the effort professors and advisors put into the students and all of the places that all the things we get to experience because of it. So thank you.
Sophie, thank you very much. Again, she's not our only student. We have a fantastic group of students here that we're extremely proud of. I was very pleased to ask her as a representative student because of our long history together. If you turn around and look at the group of students sitting right there in the middle of the auditorium, each one of them has a unique and compelling story as well. And we're so proud of all of y'all. Thank you for representing the students in general today, Sophie, and for telling your story with us. But for all of you students out there, we are so proud that you're with us, and we're looking forward to what you're each going to individually accomplish going forward. So we're almost done. We got one last thing to talk about today, and I'll try to be brief. You guys have heard the joke that faculty members only speak in increments of 50 and 75 minutes, right? That's well, not true today. Let's get there, okay. So I guess what I want to talk about today is actually the mission statement of the University of Tennessee, serving all Tennesseans. Through a bunch of words that come after that. I can't remember all those words, but the key thing that opens at the University, UT's mission statement, serving all Tennesseans, is something that I think should be very meaningful to us here at the Space Institute. And in doing so, we actually want to leverage our strength, which is aerospace and defense research. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. I'm not sure how many of y'all have a chance to look into the history of the Space Institute, but for many of you who are alumni back here, our birth certificate from the state, the Tennessee language that defined it, said, number one, find some land near AADC. Number two, attract outstanding teachers, students, and workers related to aerospace science and engineering. It doesn't call out other disciplines, it says do aerospace. That doesn't mean we don't do other disciplines here. If we're not getting the aerospace right, then we're doing something really wrong. And so when you see that strong emphasis on aerospace and everything we do, it's because it's in our birth certificate. It's an important part of our partner community. I'd like to think that we have the leadership for the state of Tennessee when it comes to aerospace and defense. Provide services to aerospace industries. We have a rich history of doing a lot of things that do support aerospace in the state of Tennessee. And I think those 9 astronauts speak a little bit to that as well. I've got my PhD from Purdue. They call themselves the cradle of astronauts. And I don't know, I think they're up to 20 or 30 something, but I'm pretty sure statistically, if you do the math, number of astronauts per graduate, UTSI wins. So I know Kavanch, our department head, it may be, he and I were both PhD students at Purdue at the same time. I'm not going to go back and flaunt that with those guys, but I'm pretty sure statistically you have a better chance of being an astronaut if you went to UTSI than if you went anywhere else. And so we're proud of that. When UTSI was set up, it was set up to support AEDC. And people ask me all the time, how come you're called the Space Institute? We don't see a lot of space stuff in there. When we received our name, space was about the space race with the Russians in the Cold War. And space meant, how do I get to space quickly and how do I come back from space in a way to put a payload someplace else? And some days today that means human cargo coming back from space, landing it successfully. Sometimes there's other types of payloads that come from space and you want them to get on target where they need to be. But space really was a moniker for how do I go fast? Okay, and when President Truman dedicated ADC, he had this quote, he said, the scientists here will explore what happens on the other side of the speed of sound. And when I first saw that quote, I walked in and I said, that is what we do. And we're doing it every day. And if you think about some of the things you've heard about and stuff, seeing the great displays when students put on, there's a lot of things that you heard about that are enabling us to explore what's going on the other side of the speed of sound and to equip our country to operate there reliably. So excited about that. Understand that what's baked into the origin story of UTSI is our ability to do this well. It doesn't mean we're limited to doing that, only that, but we do have to do that well. Now, there's a lot of cool research going on, and hopefully you got a little bit of a snapshot of all the things when you went through the exposition earlier. And thank you to all our students and staff members who supported that. Obviously, we have a strong emphasis in hypersonics with 2 of the largest wind tunnels in academia, our 2 large Talon Ludwig tubes. We were really excited when Professor Mueller got one of the first awards out of the new Space Force to look at improving the efficiency of microthrusters that will allow you to position small satellites more reliably and efficiently in space. Our LAMP team there is doing some really nice work and looking at how batteries fail. And if you're thinking about the reliance on electric vehicles that is pervasive across so many different things we're looking at, then you want to make sure those batteries are going to be robust and failure-proof. That team is out there trying to explore exactly what the leading edge there is in that area and trying to advance it. I'm really proud of Professor Zhao and his group and what we're doing there. And the beams team, led by Professor Johnson, is doing some really nice work in advanced materials, and Professor Gilmer and DeLauer, Hussein, and we got a bunch of other folks that not necessarily are here because I didn't have a good, but anyhow, bottom line, this is not all we're doing, but it's a good cross-section. It's a lot of cool things that are happening. Now, some recent highlights of what's happened at the Space Institute. Since 2015, we have been the lead campus for hypersonics in the UT system. That coordinates the efforts across 3 different stuff. And I had an old number here and said, wow, $35 million going into hypersonics in the UT system sounds pretty good, right? Oh, but wait, we just got a new award of congressionally directed funds from the Air Force, another $18 million on the books. So we're up to 50 now. And that 50 is not just happening at the Space Institute, it's tying the entire state together. We have more than 100 researchers working as a team across a culture in the UT system addressing our nation's needs in hypersonics. Because of the work at the Space Institute, the UT Knoxville campus now has a master research agreement with Lockheed Martin. Now, I don't know about y'all, I love working with Lockheed Martin, but they don't have a big factory here in the state of Tennessee, do they? We're working on that. So that means Lockheed Martin industry typically doesn't spend a lot of money in our state. But $1.3 million of Lockheed Martin funded research to our researchers in a place where they're not trying to keep the politicians happy because there's a factory there, that's meaningful. And I think we've got a tremendous opportunity to continue to do more things with Lockheed Martin, and they're hiring our students. And we just got a couple examples up there, but that's a relationship we're really excited about. More than 200 students a year apply to become summer interns. Sophie told you a little bit about her experience. A lot of the grad students in the room have had experiences as summer interns. We only take about 20 to 25 every year, but we get more than 200 applications. By the way, for those of you who do know a kid locally, if that student is willing to live at home and drive onto campus every day, we'll do what we can to help accommodate them, because we do think supporting our local community, our local students is important too. And finally, we've been much more proactive in developing short courses and other educational content beyond our traditional graduate-only mission, including a lot of professional stuff, development stuff, working with the Tullahoma and other regional school systems on teacher development, and a little bit of STEM education. So down in the lower left is Professor Gragston. He and I taught a short course to Lockheed Martin. We went out to the 3 different sites trying to help them prepare workforce to transition into hypersonics. Mark is now teaching that course every summer to the Lockheed Martin intern cohort. So Lockheed Martin has a summer intern program, and they ask UTSI to teach their summer interns all about what's important in hypersonics every summer. I think we're setting up for our 4th year in a row doing that. So really excited about that. We have a lot of things going on. Now, we've heard a lot of things about the history of UTSI. Lynn, an important aspect that I think we often don't consider, yeah, we won the Cold War. And not only was that impact devastating on the aerospace workforce, it wasn't too good for UTSI either. You know, we've had MHT programs that were thriving, and then due to some other reason, we're suddenly stopped. We've gone up and down, but the ability to support our hypersonics initiatives has actually been a great opportunity for the Space Institute. About 10 years ago, we started making some significant investments in hypersonics. And what we've seen, and I don't have data going back, I've only got it in this millennium, but we were able to turn around and have a millennial high set of research expenditures, how much money we spend on research 2 years ago. And the good news is in the 2 years since then, that number has stayed about the same level. In fact, the highest research expenditures we've had this millennium have been this last year in 2024. So we continue to grow. And what's happening though is we're actually doing that with fewer faculty members. Okay, we have fewer and fewer faculty members doing greater and larger high value programs. And I think that means that we've got a lot of potential to turn the Space Institute into some amazing new things if we can just grow the number of faculty members. Now, for many of you in the community, one of the things we joke about is that nobody knows UTSI is here, right? We're the best kept secret in Tennessee. Do you know who knows we're here? Georgia Tech and Florida State and Purdue and Texas A&M and Ohio State and all those other places that call us up and say, can we work together? Can we partner with you guys? Can we do something? Because we have built a tremendous capability in hypersonics. And people care about our graduates. This is a list put together, I think Zane Schoppel, my student, put together this list. I know there's a group of students putting this together. These are the people who hire our graduate students, okay? I think we have an incredible record of success in placing graduate students in jobs that they were seeking. Okay, I'm not sure what our batting average is, but it's well up there. Excited about that. I think our hypersonic group actually has a 100% success rate so far. One thing though stands out to me, can you look at this picture and say, where is a uniquely Tennessee? There's Tennessee in here, but we're sending people all over the country. Okay, I love the fact that we have a national footprint. But the question I've been asking since I've been executive director is, are we doing enough to support our local community and our local stakeholders? Can we have our cake and eat it too and be both a nationally recognized research powerhouse and figure out how to take care of our local community? And so we went back to look at the UT system mission statement. How do we serve all Tennesseans? And if you think about some of the challenges around us, then right next door is Grundy County, which has some of the lowest economic prosperity numbers. And graduate students, you guys think you get paid poorly, right? You guys are above median for families in Grundy County when it comes to how much money you actually make every year. And think about a family of 3 or 4 trying to live on that. Okay, there are counties around us that are extremely challenged. And so you ask, what would an institute that specializes in being on the leading edge of aerospace and defense do to help somebody there? Well, it turns out we can be a driver for economic development. How can we leverage the fact that we have an incredible aerospace and defense friendly state and capabilities right here at the Space Institute? Let's turn our part of the state into the Silicon Valley for defense systems and aerospace and defense systems by developing the capability to not only test, but also design and build those systems right here in Middle Tennessee. And every engineering job you create creates two more on the supply line. And that's where those impoverished counties around us will benefit by us bringing a great engineering ecosystem here to our part of the state. And so if you think about where we are in southern Middle Tennessee, we sit closer to AEDC. They're right here, but we are between AEDC and Huntsville. And if we could do a better job of connecting the dots and actually taking advantage of our position to foster the connectivity of the massive Huntsville aerospace community there, help facilitate how they might access and work with the ADC and ultimately become the magnet that causes Huntsville to want to grow north, then we could actually lead efforts towards fulfillment of the land grant mission of serving all Tennesseans by actually causing Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman to want to put their next engineering centers right here in southern Middle Tennessee. And the whole state benefits from that. So we have a new vision at the Space Institute. And that is, how do we lead the growth of aerospace and defense capabilities for Tennessee? And it starts off by doing that within the state, reaching out, being the dominant academic partner for the Huntsville region, Southeast, maybe the SEC conference. I believe we can be the leading niche aerospace provider for the SEC. The United States, of course, having that global footprint. But to do that, and if we're going to compel Huntsville to want to bring their economic growth north to us instead of heading west towards Mississippi, then there's a couple things we need to do. First, we need to broaden our research to better align with the needs of the regional aerospace and defense enterprise. Colonel Vapp originally had Huntsville on there. I said, you know what? That's not acceptable. We need to take care of ADC first and foremost as we continue to expand here. So ADC is going to remain a critical, important part of what we do, but we need to align with the needs of our regional aerospace enterprise. And the second thing we need to do is lead a coalition of academic institutions to develop the world's greatest aerospace and defense workforce. You have heard today from a lot of people who have been trained here and have had successful careers, and I would argue are evidence that we are capable of producing the world's greatest aerospace and defense workforce if we focus on doing that. I think that's got potential for our community. Now, let's talk about that first bullet, broadening our research capabilities. By 2027, I would like for the University of Tennessee system to have a complete capability organically within our system to support an industry partner in the development of the structures you would require for a hypersonic or space vehicle. That means taking all the aerodynamic testing capabilities that you heard about today at the Space Institute and somehow marrying them to the advanced manufacturing work that's being done in Knoxville right now. Knoxville, in partnership with Oak Ridge, gives us a tremendous ability to build things, to take new technology and to build things in innovative ways. But most of those things would be the innards, the substructure, the inside of an aerospace vehicle. What we do at the Space Institute is we focus on all the things on the outside that might harm your vehicle. That in between is high temperature materials, so thermal protection materials that protect the outside of the vehicle and connect resistance to the external loads to what's going on the inside of your vehicle. And we're making a $20 million investment in that area to build new capabilities, to bring in new family members, and to invest in a new high enthalpy facility that will allow us to start characterizing those high temperature material systems. By the way, that's a critical research need nationwide right now. If you ask ADC what their priorities are, somewhere better access and data from our ARC jets is very high up on that list. Can I get a name in term? Got a thumbs up, this is good for me. That is a nationally important area. So when we put all three pieces of those things together, now we're cooking. We've got some amazing capabilities that we can do to provide a comprehensive set of research support for industry to work with us inside the state of Tennessee. And I'm really excited about where we're going in this new area. Now let me ask you all a question. What's the workforce look like? Who is the workforce? Because Lynn nailed it earlier, the workforce is about 50% skilled trades. Okay, so when we think about the Space Institute, and I talk about graduate students, what we're talking about is actually the right-hand side of our spectrum of people here. We've got subject matter experts. We've got people that are publishing journal articles about leading-edge research in the work we're doing. And what they represent is probably single percentage points of the actual aerospace workforce. Here's the other thing. When our students that are leaving with their master's degrees go out and work, I'm sorry guys, you're never going to touch a wrench again for the rest of your life. Unless you wind up doing a very niche job. There's some opportunities out there, but they're few and far between. You go to work for one of the primes, you're going to be talking with someone else, someone in the skilled trade workforce about how to support your activities. So the question we've been asking all along, if we're going to be a leader in developing the world's finest aerospace and defense workforce, what are we going to do to make that happen? And that means we're reaching back and talking with people like Mocklin State Community College. We're talking with the TCAS centers, we're talking with Tullahoma High School and Coffee County High School and Fran. We're talking with everyone, we're saying, how do we all work together to create the best workforce we possibly can for this community? And at some point, we're going to ask the question, if our engineers go to work and they're going to be working and leading teams with skilled trade research or workforce in the teams, why aren't we educating them together as a cohort today as part of their educational process? So I'm excited about the idea of taking some of our Motlow students and actually embedding them in our research projects so they can exercise the skills they're developing in their associate's degrees in support of the graduate research that our students are doing here. We're not there yet, but I'm excited about where we can possibly go. And in the long run, we want to explore and move toward this thing called vertically integrated education. Okay? Historically, if you were to ask me when I was younger, what's school like? Well, I went to high school, right? I'm going to get my undergrad degree, and then I'm going to get a graduate degree. And if you'd have told me I was going to get a PhD when I was 22 years old at the University of Texas, and it was going to take a third of the time I've been alive, that was crazy talk at the time. So thinking about how we want to develop a workforce, we want to give our workforce the opportunity to see the next off-ramp on the educational highway and have that off-ramp be achievable in a way that they feel like, you know what, I can get there. So starting to inspire the K-12 and the other students to say, I want to work on aerospace and defense jobs in this area. And then working with Motlow State to say, hey, we've got an aerospace and defense skilled workforce, and you know what, after that, perhaps I can finish the degree locally in our region here at Space Institute or go someplace else, but I can get that engineering degree. And then for 4 credits after that, 4 classes, I can get a certificate in hypersonics or advanced manufacturing or something else. And a couple years after that, I can get a master's. So now we want to provide more educational opportunities so students can always see the next opportunity to grow, and it always appears like it's in reach. And as a result, they can size their education based on what they think is best for them at the time. There's a lot of things that we're going to do to try and create a more diverse ecosystem of educational opportunities, but we want to work closely with the community to help make that happen. So I've been up here for a while. Let me just end with a couple of things. The last 60 years has been something that we've been incredibly proud of. And I could not tell you how fortunate I feel. I am lucky to be able to stand up here as Executive Director of the Space Institute with Sophia Edwards, Tickle College of Engineering, and talk with you about all the things that we're going to be able to do. I get to do this job every day, and I feel very blessed for that. What's going to be even more fun, though, is where we're going to go in the future. As Dean Mench noted, we're going to triple our faculty over the next 5 years. Okay, we hired 2 new faculty members just this last month. I'm negotiating with 3 more full professors to show up here from other places and come in and bring leadership and establish teams and really start bringing some more energy to what we're doing. We're going to start hiring after that, but within the next 5 years, you should see 20 to 25 faculty members here, maybe 30, leading and contributing to advancing research in our communities. We want to increase the presence of undergraduates in Space Institute. I envision one day having our dorms actually full of undergrads and having about 40 undergrads in residence there with more commuters, and our graduate students living off campus like young professionals should. And for those of you in the Tullahoma community, we need help with housing for our graduate students. That remains a challenge for us. But, and I think it's important for you to see, but we want to move towards that direction of having a mix of, we're still going to be a graduate institution, but we're going to give those undergrads a tremendous opportunity to participate in that and to be inspired to specialize in that later on. We're going to partner with Mount Lowe State, UT Southern, and others to allow the completion of a UTK BS degree. Now, that's not a done deal yet, okay? So I got to look at my boss and say, hey, this is aspirational, but I believe we're moving in that direction. We've got the senior year in place. And so I think we ought to be able to get the rest of the place we're moving towards that. And finally, I'd like to restart the UTSI Support Council with some initial meetings in early 2025. As we continue to grow and thrive, we're going to need the state and the community to get behind us and help us with things. At some point, we're going to need support in a variety of different ways that don't necessarily come organically. And so I'm looking forward to working with everyone in this community as we continue to advance the mission of the Space Institute. And over the next 60 years, I think we can be committed to serving all Tennesseans by advancing aerospace and defense, but seeing that advancement actually have a profound impact on all the Tennesseans around us. And I think by having that impact, we can actually fulfill the land grant mission. So, at the university. So thank you very much for being here with us today. I really appreciate everything that all who prepared for our day to support us with. Thank you for all our speakers. It's been a fun birthday party or an anniversary celebration. We've got this thing with the staff, but we're not sure what we're calling it. But I keep saying birthday. But the next 5 years are going to be fun to do. It's going to be impactful for the next 60. And the way to accomplish that is if we all work together. I can tell you right now, UTSI cannot do this on its own. It's going to require a community effort as we get together with our economic development partners, our local municipalities, the mothership back in Knoxville, the state of Tennessee. But if we gather together and organize a coherent plan, we can do some epic things as we try to advance aerospace and defense in our part of the state, and doing that to benefit everyone. So thank you very much for being here today. I'd love to talk with you individually if you have some questions. We're done. I'll hang out up here. But one last thing, I think there's ice cream out there. And so I hope you will all go and enjoy a little ice cream left over dessert before we go. And have a great weekend, okay? Thank you all so much.